Continuing our lesson, Islamic laws of inheritance. Last week we did a bit of introduction about the topic and some of the ways in which this topic is important, as well as how inheritance in general is received, and also some of the wisdoms, etc. Today we're going to focus mainly, and the PDF inshallah is in Telegram on WhatsApp, we're going to focus mainly on Ashab al-Furud, the prescribed shares today. And before going there, we do a quick review of what we studied. So far we defined inheritance, what it means, right? We also discussed why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala legislated this, so the wisdom obviously. We also discussed that inheritance is two parts, fiqh and calculations. Fiqh means the rules, that's what we're doing right now, we're getting to the rules. Then later we're going to do the hisab, the mathematics. We also said that the conditions for inheritance, the person who wants to figure out if inheritance is due, we're going to look for three conditions. Number one, the deceased has to pass away. And number two, the person who's the heir has to be alive at the time of the death of the deceased. And thirdly, we have to figure out the relationship between the deceased and the heir. Khalas. Causes for inheritance, slide number 10, we said last week there are three causes. Number one, marriage ties. Number two, blood ties, and that's the biggest one. There's a blood tie between the deceased and the heir. And thirdly, wala, which is if someone emancipates, frees someone from slavery, then they become an heir. And we're not going to talk about that one because slavery doesn't exist in today's era. A question came last week, whether or not the milk brothers and sisters are included. Qawl sahih, they're not included, because even though they have a type of nasab, their nasab is weak. And because they're not blood ties, they're milk ties. So therefore the ulama mentioned they're not counted. So therefore it's only three. Wala, emancipation, we're not going to do that. Marriage, means husband, wife. And then blood ties and sab, and that's the biggest one. So when we say blood ties, milk ties are out. And this is Jumhur ulama, if not all of them. And they mentioned that the reason I explained. Alright, so just to note, maybe last week we said otherwise, but this is the correct view. Preventatives of inheritance. We said last week 3 things to prevent someone from becoming an heir. Number one, if they killed an heir, they killed the deceased. So the rule is if you kill a deceased, you can't become their heir. The reason behind it, we said once, that would be a cause for a lot of murder because people are going to start killing one another. But also as a type of way to prevent the person who was killed from opening that door, unless the person did this justifiably for Sharia, means they were self-defense, or any legislative type of self-defense or kind of death. That's okay. Number two, differences in religion. And we said that this is an area of discussion, will come later. That the heirs have to have the same religion, both Muslims. If the one's Christian, one is a Muslim, then there is no inheritance. And we said that one of the issues comes if a non-Muslim inherits a Muslim. The scholars differed over that. But as a Muslim inherits a disbeliever, then that's not allowed. And we're going to come to that later. And the third one being a slave. Obviously, a slave doesn't have any property, so they can't inherit. That's the point. Now, slide 12, we're going to start from there. Last week we were discussing the heirs and 25 of them. Here in this chart now, I changed the format to make it easier to see. And we made it 23 in this chart. So slide 12. Okay, slide 12. So we're going to stay on this for a while. We have to memorize it. Okay, today is about memorizing. Because if you don't memorize, we're not going to go far. So we need to memorize these 23, and there's 2 missing, which are the emancipator, male and female. There's no slavery, so we took them out. So 23. The first thing, last week we talked about the paternal uncle, and some brothers were confused about the wording, so I changed the wording. So look at number 9 and 10 and 11 on the issue of hawashi, the marginal heirs. We have the full paternal uncle's son, paternal half uncle. Okay, so your uncle has, on your father's side, you can have 2 types of brothers, right? Full brother, half brother. Just like you can have a full brother, half brother. So we're going to think about our uncles on our father's side as full brother, half brother. So if he's your uncle on your father's side, he's part of your conversation. But the difference would be the one who is a full uncle means they share the same parents. Half uncle means they have one of the 2 parents, in this case, the paternal side. So that's the wording we changed from last week. And then their sons. So now you can see there's 4 categories. Usul, foundational heirs. hawashi, marginal heirs, furu', subsidiary heirs, and marital tie heirs. So in order to understand how inheritance works, we have to know these 23 heirs in our mind. And the way we're going to memorize it, because take a look at it carefully, is by looking at patterns. It's a pattern. The way I categorized it, it's all based on who's connected to who. So the reason why we have to first understand this chart, these are the people who, all the possible heirs for a person, 23. Now, not all of them are going to inherit at one time, right? Depends, each case, you're going to have some in, some out. We're going to come to later. Some of them are going to get cancelled out, etc. But before we can go forward, we have to first know who these people are. So the way to memorize it then is by looking at each list, usul. So when we say usul, means your ancestors. Think usul as ancestors. So if someone would think about your own ancestors, how many people can you think of? Your mother and father, then your grandmother, and your grandfathers, right? Is that it? Right? Is anybody else? Right? This is what we think of, right? So we're thinking mother and father, and you're thinking about your grandparents. I think grandfather is missing this area. There's a grandfather there, guys. Anybody sees it? I think he's missing, right? So we're going to add grandfather here. Number 6 is grandfather. All right, so we're going to edit as we go along. So if I miss something, just remind me. So father, mother, maternal grandmother, paternal grandmother, paternal grandfather's mother, and grandfather. So number 6 is grandfather. So now we can see, when you think about usul, we have 6 possible people. The first of it, easy to memorize, your own parents. So think about somebody's parents, mother and father. Okay, and then their parents, grandmother, grandfather. And then the issue then is grandmothers, there's more than one. So that's the part you have to add. That's the additional. So most of us know your mother, father, grandfather, grandmother. Everyone remembers those, right? Hopefully. Then how about grandmothers and grandfathers? So grandfathers are one group. They consider as one group, all of them. So remember, grandfathers are one group. If there's 2 of them, 3 of them, they're all going to group giving the same inheritance. And we're going to see, because they usually come in one group. Unless, of course, there's one who's older, right? Great-grandfather versus grandfather. The one who's closest always takes the heirs. So we're going to see, always takes a share. So to memorize it, you just follow the pattern. Your father and his father going forward. That's it, going up. So your father and then grandfather, then go upwards from there. Done. Okay, grandmothers now. Grandmothers is going to be your grandmother from your mom's side. That's maternal. And then the paternal grandmother, your grandmother from your father's side. Then there's one additional grandmother, number 5. The paternal grandfather's mother. This one you have to highlight, because this one is the one where the ulama, they differed. They differed on this one. Paternal grandfather's mother. So what does that mean? We just said you have your grandfather, and then if you go up, right? So you have your father, you have your grandfather, and you have a mother above that. Does that count? So here's a dispute, because each one of these, they're following a bloodline. But what's going on here? You have a paternal grandfather's mother. So your grandfather's mother, is that a grandmother or not? So some ulama said, no, she's far up. Because we're going to see between this deceased and that person, there's 2 individuals. There's a grandfather and then there's a mother. It's supposed to be like going directly. But what's more correct, and we're going to see this later, is that whoever is considered an heir, then the person who comes after that heir also will be considered an heir. So is the grandfather, paternal grandfather, is he an heir? Does he get money? Does he get shares? Yes. So his mother will get it too, because she's still a grandmother. That's how they understood it. So again, for each one of these people, if you were to ask me what's the reason, there's a rule. But before getting to rules, we have to understand what's going on here. So now we have 6. So we have to try to memorize the mother and father. Then you have the grandfather, right, on mother's side, and the grandfather on the other side. So just say grandfathers. Then we have how many grandmothers? How many do we have there? How many grandmothers? 3. Yeah, that's it. That's the one you have to memorize. 3. So one on your mom's side, one on your dad's side, and then one above on your dad's side. That's the one that you have to remember. So your grandfather's mother counts. Now the reality is she's kind of far up there, so she's usually going to get cut off anyways, as we're going to come to. So it's not too worried. If you forgot, it won't harm you too much, right? Because it's kind of up there. Okay, khalas, that's the usul. So when they say usul or ancestry or foundational heir, what are you thinking? I'm thinking my mother, my father, my paternal grandmother, my maternal grandmother, grandfather, and then paternal grandfather's mother. That's the one you're going to spend your time just keep memorizing, because that one is not in most of our minds. But remember, it's higher up, so it won't ruin you if you do a case study. But you have to memorize those 6, because when we say usul, we have to pay attention to that. It's going to come later. Each one of these have an impact. Move over. The majority of the heirs on the marginal side. Marginal means they're going to be on the sides of you. So you're thinking brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts. Well, not aunts here, uncles. And we're thinking nephews and cousins. These are what we're thinking about. So when you hear the word hawashi or marginal heirs, what are you thinking? Brothers, sisters, uncles, nephews, and cousins. Now someone will say they're all males, right? Except for a few females. Yes, because as we're going to see in a second, there's a wisdom behind why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose some over others. There's a wisdom. So now if you look at this list, there's 12 of them. And all of these are important. Some of them, they get prescribed shares and some don't. So let's go through the list. Number 1, your full sister. What does that mean? Who's a full sister? What does that mean? Yeah, the same mom and dad. Well, just remember, you have to know the difference, right? When we say full and half, or paternal, maternal, because later on someone's going to cut someone off based on strength. So the one who's a full sibling is stronger than the one who's a half sibling. And the one who's a paternal sibling is stronger than the one who's a maternal. Right? So if you memorize that now, it's easier to remember later. It's kind of a pattern. So full sister, then your paternal sister, then your maternal sister. All of them are sisters. So if you made a bracket, it's like sister who's closest to me, full. Then the one who's next closest to me, paternal. Then the one who's next closest to me is maternal. They're all sisters, right? So some ulama say akhawat mutlaqan, sisters all together. But that doesn't help many of us, because we say, how many sisters do you have? You see, someone asks you that, you're like, subhanAllah, I don't know. When I ask you how much you literally have, how many could you have? Right? So that's the question. So remember, each case, you may only have one sister. Someone else could have 2 types of sisters, a full sister, paternal sister, and maternal. But if you don't know that, what's going to happen? You do the case. If someone told you I have one sister, you have to ask them, which type is it? You have to know, because otherwise it's going to ruin the thing. So let's look at the first 3. They're all sisters. Full sister, paternal sister, maternal sister. Done. Then the brothers now. Full brother and a full brother's son. Okay, so your full brother means what? You have both siblings. Okay, and who's your full brother's son? What's another way of saying that? Your nephew. But the reason I didn't put nephew, because sometimes people don't know what nephew means. So better to say full brother's son. Why? Because you have nephew. Which nephew? We're not talking about your sister's side, man. I'm talking your brother. Your full brother's. See, because when you see nephew is a category. So we're going to call him the full brother's son. So almost like a category. If you say now brothers are category 2. So your full brother, who's immediately after him? Your full brother's son. And it's going in this order. The way I put it is the order it comes, because the order of strength. Then you have your paternal brother. Then what? Your paternal brother's son. You see a pattern? Maternal brother, no maternal brother's son. Why? His mom's side is weak. He's on the weak side. Okay, he's out. He's going with mom. Right? He's coming in from the mom's side. Otherwise, he's not supposed to be in this. He's not supposed to be. Maternal siblings are not supposed to be in this, because they're coming from the mom's side. But we're going to see the ulama mentioned the hikmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He joined them together with the mom. Right? Which is interesting, right? Because they're on the maternal side. So no maternal brothers, right? And also you notice, where are the full sisters' siblings? Where are their sons? They're not there. Why? Okay, so it's a rule. To be an heir, generally, you can't be between the deceased and the heir a woman or a female. That's a qa'idah, a dhabit. Between an heir, usually, there is not between him and the deceased a female. The only one that's like that is grandmothers, right? Because they're an heir themselves. Anybody else, between that person who's becoming the heir and the deceased, must only be males. I'm going to come back to why. So you get the point, right? So if you say full sister son, what's wrong with this? Full sister son, full sister heir. Nope, or deceased. That's sorry. Between them and the deceased is a sister. Not going to work. So that's the wisdom behind why they took all of them out. And the reason we're going to see is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the paternal heir specifically and a group of them these shares, because they're the ones who do most of the heavy lifting in the family in terms of the responsibilities. Who carries the burden in the family in terms of finances, financial burden? Someone kills somebody, right? Blood money, who's paying that? Names and lineages, who's carrying that? Himaya, who's protecting the household? These people. So Ibn Qayyim says, and also Shahwari wa Dahlawi, the ones who take all that job of qaraba wal himaya, they're both relatives and protectors. Allah gave them the shares. SubhanAllah. Why? Because they're doing the work. They need the money and shares because Allah put more responsibility on them. As for the others, right, like the mom and the siblings, they have qaraba wal rahma wal khidma. They help the ummah. They help. So Allah gave them something, right? They take care of you, look out for you, but they don't protect. They don't take your place. For example, if the deceased passed away, who's stepping up in his plate? It's going to be either his brother or his son or his father. So that's why Allah gives them that side. That's beautiful because now you can see the Sharia doesn't give one who doesn't have more responsibility more, and He doesn't say that doesn't neglect him because that will be dhulm too. Imagine you just cut them off. Like in the Western system, you're not looking at no cousins, uncles, they're gone. Everything goes to the sibling, the wife, khalas. So what's the point of you being a family, right? Someone will say, well, me, miskin guy, I was there. No, nothing for you either. And that's why if you look at the Western system, we have to ask that question. Why are they reducing the heirs or for example, the shares in all cases? And we're going to come to some examples where we're going to compare this. So now you can know, if you see the sisters, their sons are not there. So where do we stop? We said maternal brother. We start with paternal brother's son. So paternal brother, then paternal brother's son. Number 8, maternal brother. Now maternal brother is like a maternal sister. He's coming from the weak side. So because both of them are weak, you can take a note. Number 3 and number 8, they go together. Number 3 and number 8, they go together. So the maternal sister, maternal brothers, they go always together. Why? Because they're not paternal heirs. So anytime you find a maternal sibling, if it's a sister, if it's a brother, they're all get the same. They're the only category who share equally. The brothers and sisters get the same amount. As for other siblings, as we're going to see, there's more for the son than the daughter. So now, number 3 and number 8. I only put them separate so you can see in your head the differences, but you can just call them maternal siblings. You can call them that. But I think it's good to differentiate so you remember, like if it's a sibling, maternal sister or maternal brother, right? They go together, but they're two different people, although they group together. Then number 9, full paternal uncle. So that's your father's brother, who's his brother with sharing the both siblings. So full paternal uncle. And then who comes after him? If you look at the pattern, full paternal uncle's son. Then your paternal half uncle. So who is this? So your paternal half uncle is your father's brother, but your father's half brother. Now, some of us have that. You probably don't know it. Some of your fathers have half brothers. Right? So sometimes you forget. When you think of uncle, you think of that, the one who's here. How about the one you didn't see? Right? He's there too, right? But he's weaker, right? Because he's half brother. So maternal half uncle, they call him. Paternal half uncle, and then his son. So see how they're down there, number 12, 11 and 12. What does that tell us? The lower they go, the more likely they're going to be cut. Okay. I think we missed one more here, didn't we? Where's the main one? Oh, he's on the side. Okay, so that's the 12. So the way to memorize the marginal heirs, because they're the most, is just follow the pattern. Nice, full sister, think all sisters. So what do you start with? Full sister, then paternal sister, then maternal sister. Then what next? Full brother, then his son. Then who's next? Paternal brother, then his son. Then who's next? Full uncle, then his son. Next, half uncle and his son. Khalas. You just follow the order. So later we're going to see each one of these groups. The way I categorize them, you're going to come later. The strength goes like that. It's going to go this way because you have to know them in order. The reason why is because later if I tell you, okay, they all exist. Who goes first? So you're going to say, okay, who's closer? Who's closer gets it. And what's the proof? The hadith we mentioned last week. فَمَا بَقِيَ, whatever remains, فَلِأَوْلَى ذَكَرْ رَجُلٌ, right? Whoever is closer, فَلِأَوْلَى رَجُلٌ ذَكَرْ. Whatever is left over, give it to the nearest male heir. Now one hadith, guys, it covers the whole of the topic pretty much. This topic is based on one hadith, 3 ayahs, or a few, actually more than one hadith, but a few hadith, but mainly that hadith teaches us how it works. So you got to remember that. So, right, we'll give you a few minutes here. Just take a look at that list. You got to memorize it. We can't leave this majlis to memorize it. It's not going to go. It's not going to work. Later, we're going to be all over the place. And it's easy. Just look at it carefully and memorize it. Full sister, maternal sister, full brother and his son, maternal brother and his son, and then you get the maternal brother, then full brother, paternal uncle, his son, paternal half brother, uncle, and his son. So take a look at that a few minutes, just 1-2 minutes. Try to memorize it because it's very useful. Because later we're gonna try to recap everything. And if you can't memorize it fully, then inshallah when you go home you'll fix it. Okay, so the keys, look at the pattern. Just look at the pattern, inshallah, you'll see it. Okay, so you're looking at that, you'll notice the pattern here. And 3 and 8, we say they go together. The maternal sister and the maternal brother. For the purpose of this, we just separated them. That leaves us now with the furu'. The furu' are the subsidiary heirs. Who are they? The ones who are coming from the deceased. So the son and the grandson. But what kind of grandson? Grandson from the son. Why? Because someone will say, how about your daughter's son? It wouldn't qualify because between the deceased and them is a female, right? So you take them out. So son, then grandson. So when we say grandson, you're talking about the son's son, right? The grandson from the son. So literally, like if you have a son, his son. And then the granddaughter from who? From the son, right? Because she is a female, but between her and the deceased is the son. Still good, right? Still a male. And the last one's a daughter. So the furu' are less, but to be honest, the strongest of all these heirs, in many ways the entire system, is the son. The son is number one. He's the strongest of all the heirs, as we're going to see, because by his presence alone, he changes people from most to less, and he takes some people out altogether. And the reason why, the ulama say the son, he has given so much of the responsibility or the shares because he takes the position of the father, or most cases in the household, he's the one who substitutes in the case of a deceased father or someone, he يقوم مقامه, he takes the position. So they say the son, Allah gave him a lot for those reasons, and also most people will be okay with that. Right? No family is going to say the father passed away, don't give it out to the son, he's the one who's going to take care of us. And also we have to think about this, as will come later. The daughter, she also is going to get her share, and oftentimes she shares with her brother. But when they share, he gets more. He gets 2 shares, right? Versus 1. And what's the wisdom? Who has to pay the spending? Who has to take care of family? Him. Right? So that's important. When we think about nafaqah, it's on the man. So she will get her share, but he gets double because he has to double the expenses, right? Unfortunately, we live in a society people didn't get that. Why does he get more? Ask him why he has more expenses. That's the better question. Right? But we live in a world today, look at how much he gets, not how much he spends. So this is the point to remember, the son is important. So son, then grandson from the son, then granddaughter from the son, and daughter. That's it. That's 4. And the last one, the marital ties, husband and wife. So the benefit here, the wife, when we say wife, how many? If someone has 1 wife, 2 wives, 3 wives, 4, they all share. So the wives are one category. They're treated as one. So that's it. Just like grandfathers are treated as one, the wives are all treated as one. How about fathers? Well, if somebody has more than one father, stepfather, full father, some they say, okay, in that case, they're all considered one. Shaykh Uthaymin says you can count them all as one. So we'll see there are some of the categories. Most categories, everyone is separate, but some they come as groups. So far we see the grandfathers, the wives, the maternal siblings, these are groups. But right now it doesn't concern us, we're just trying to memorize the list, but later you will see this. So that's it. It's not hard to memorize it. If you actually think about it, we look at it this way, it's easy. Now there are other ways of representing it, right? We don't have the projector, I forgot it today, sorry guys. But if you try to represent it, you can make your own chart if you want. Some people like that, but I found the chart, as useful as it is, also can make it more tricky, right? So some of them, they use this kind of chart, try to explain. But I don't know if this will make it easy to memorize, right? Because it's just like a lot of angles and diagrams. But you could use stuff like that, family tree. You can make it at home, your own. Whatever it takes to memorize, all this wasail, whatever it takes. Every sheikh, every book has their own way. The goal is, do you know it? That's it. No one knows how you got there or exactly what you did. You have to memorize it though. Because when the case comes, at least you know who's not an heir. So an example, who's not an heir? The aunt. Why? Well, so we're going to say, well, if she's coming from the maternal side, then she's on the weak side already, and then she's a female and she's coming between from the weak side, so she's already there. And if it's maternal aunt, then usually between her and the deceased is going to be a female, so they say no. And also, they don't take the position of supporting the family like the way the others do. So that's why from the beginning Allah didn't give it to them, unless, as we'll see, rare cases. If someone has no family, the ones who then will come from your mom's side will take the place. That's the last case. They're called Dibil Arham. And not every madhab takes that view, but some of them they say if there's nobody left, then you go to them. And other madhab, they take the view that you just give the money to the Baytul Mal. Right? They say it goes to Muslim treasury, there's nobody left. So we'll come to that in terms of like some family structures. Some people have unique situations where they might have to sort that out. Okay, if you understand slide 12 and looking at this, you can see these are all the heirs, but that's not the lesson. The lesson now is to figure out the prescribed shares, who gets what. That's our main lesson, the numbers now. Go slide number 14. So slide number 13, for those of us who were here last week, we said an heir can receive their wealth two ways. They can get a fard, prescribed share, Allah mentioned, and Rasulullah mentioned, or they get ta'asib. Ta'asib you can describe as residual. So one way to remember, fard means faridatan min Allah. Allah legislated it. Ta'asib means after the prescribed share, people got what they got, what they deserve, as long as and all the conditions they meet, whatever is left over, the overflow, the residual goes to the closest male heir. Okay, that's the rule, the closest. And so just remember, so how many people get fard? 11. And how many heirs get ta'asib, residual shares? 14. So the good news is that most of those who you're memorizing today, the marginal heirs, they're from the people of ta'asib. So they get cut off real quick, some of them, here and here, as we'll see. Today we're not talking about that second method. We're going to focus only on who gets the prescribed shares, the 11. And we're going to memorize those, inshallah, and we're just going to review them. Let us go to slide 14 now. So, in the Quran and Sunnah, there's only 6 prescribed shares. And the wisdom of it, Shaykh Waliullah, he says, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to make it easy for people to memorize, to know, and to quickly to calculate the inheritance. Because the Arab, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what he said, where Ummah doesn't read or write. Okay, some of us, if you have fraction problems, don't worry, this is it. You don't even need little fractions. You can do this like this, as we'll see. It's just groups. So even if someone looks at a case without knowing anything, he can calculate it. Right? Maybe the rest of it he can't do, but he might need to calculate to do the actual numbers of the estate, but at least he can get the fractions. And Shaykh Waliullah, he goes in depth. In Hujjat al-Baligha, he actually goes in depth. Why 1/2 and 1/3, and which ones come together, which can't come together. And you start noticing the Sharia is, again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alim al-Hakim, brothers and sisters. Very important. Our Sharia is based for everybody. So, when you look at them, there's only 6. I put them 2 groups, will come handy later. Group A and Group B. And all you have to remember, everything's half. 1/2, 1/4, 1/8. Just keep going half, right? 2/3, 1/3, 1/6. That's it. So half, and half a half is 1/4, and half of that 1/8. Khalas, that's Group A. And Group B, 2/3, half of that 1/3, half of that 1/6. Khalas, that's it. That's it. That's all that you need to know. And the rest of who gets how, that's the next slide. Who gets the 2/3, who doesn't, what conditions. But that's it. That's all Allah mentions. And from these 6, you can do all cases. You can do all the cases, alhamdulillah. Now someone may say, but wait, these fractions, how do I find the common denominator? Don't worry about that. We're going to use a trick, it's a tip. We don't need to know math. This trick. See, the ulama came everything. We don't need all this other. Some of the biggest issues of inheritance came from there. When the ulama, they tried to make the case window, they confused a lot of people because each sheikh tried to take his method and it became complicated. As we'll see, some of those abwab, we're going to skip them because some ulama, they say today's time you can do tajdeed. We have modern technology, we're going to use that. So for example, Sheikh Sa'ad Khatran, he has the book Tasheel, Hisab al-Fara'id, and there he has his own method. He just came up with a simple way. And some they say use the calculator, it's easy. Because some of the difficulty became like, how do you find the common denominator? People get lost already there. If someone comes to you, you don't have time for that, right? You have to say, okay, look, boom, 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 that's it. So we're going to see later, Group A and Group B, they have a way to work together. Very simple. But they're 6th. Now, if you understand this, the question that people ask, who gets what and with what conditions, this is the part where it's a bit important to focus on. And if you don't get it fully, You will only memorize it later. After you go home, you fix it. But it's not hard. Let's go to slide 15. Look carefully here. Slide 16 and 15. Right, we'll start with 15. This is the most important part for today. So number 1, memorizing the heirs. And number 2, memorizing who gets what. So prescribed shares are who again? People who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has told us their shares. Also in the hadith Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in my chart, I put them in groups. Because if you actually analyze it, and analyze it for a very long time, you find they're in patterns, they're in groups. Father and grandfather, they share the same. They can either get 1/6 of a prescribed share, or they can get ta'asib, a residual amount, or both. The grandfather and father are special because they're one of those who get both, right? A prescribed and a residual share, and sometimes they get both of them. And we're going to come to that. So now take a look, father and grandfather. Why they group together? Where does the grandfather come from? Or where did the father come from? From the grandfather. Who's nearer to the deceased? If someone died, who's next to him is the father, then the grandfather. So now I put them together because when the father is there, grandfather's out. Right? Because that's the rule we're going to see. The closest, right? So that's it. He's closer, out, grandfather. So now they share the same. When the father's not there, grandfather takes his place. So what do they get? 1/6 prescribed share, or they get the residual share, or they get both. Okay, that's not hard to memorize. 1/6, or residual, or both. 1/6 residual, or prescribed residual, or both. And we're gonna come to some examples. Now the mother, maternal brothers, and grandmother are kind of connected. But I separated them, but if you look carefully, you can see they're connected, all of them. The mother gets 1/3 maximum, or 1/6. And the maternal brothers and sisters, because they're maternal, they come from her, they get the same thing, except a little bit different. There has to be 2 or more maternal siblings for them to get the 1/3. And if it's only one of them, they get the 1/6. So you see how their shares are similar? And then grandmother gets 1/6 if mom is not there. So now if you look at those 3, you can put them all together. Mother, maternal siblings, and grandmother. What's the similarity between these 3? They're all maternal, right? Okay. So the mother gets what? If you memorize her, you can memorize the rest. What does the mother get? Maximum 1/3 or 1/6. And the grandmother, 1/6. Because the mom's not there, she takes it. Why is she getting less? So think about it. So we're going to say, Shaykh Waliullah said, look, if the mothers and those who are not able to replace the financial duties of the deceased, Allah gave them inheritance out of mercy and kindness due to their support and their khidmah and their care for the deceased. Like for example, mom is always there, she can't take care of the bills, but she was always there, so Allah gave her 1/3 or 1/6. Grandma did less of that, right? So she gets less. Easy, remember that? Grandma did less work, she gets 1/6. It makes sense. Sometimes you have to use this stuff to memorize it. Otherwise, some of this, it's not, they don't quote it. It's not, the ulama didn't say that, but that's just a point to help you. So, because it goes back to the illah. What's the reason? So, inshallah, she's further, so less. And then how about the maternal siblings? Shaykh Waliullah said, well, they're coming from the mom. So they're not supposed to be here. So they go with the mom. So mom gets 1/3, 1/6, they get 1/3, 1/6. But difference is, there has to be 2 of them or more to get the 1/3. Otherwise, they get the 1/6. And if they're not, they're going to be kicked out. As we're going to see, they typically are removed often because of the strength issue. They're maternal. So, those 3, they share the same amounts. So think about it, right? Mom, 1/3, 1/6. Grandma, 1/6. Maternal siblings, 1/3, 1/6. But then if there's 2 of them more, they get 1/3. If there's only one, they get 1/6. So when you go home, you're just going to think about these groups. Grandfather, father. Maternal siblings, mom, grandma, one group. One group. Imagine we're taking all of them, putting them in groups because they follow each other. And there's also, you're going to see when you're counting the numbers, subhanAllah, you're going to even notice that certain rules, you just have to go. The fractions are going to lead you the way. Sometimes the fraction will lead you to the conclusion because you can't. You can't just add numbers together. In some cases, it's not going to go. It's just going to go down. So that's the beauty of knowing that. Okay. Now let's look at the daughters and full sisters. They share the same. Daughters are where? Are they hawashi or furu'? Who are the daughters? They're furu', they're kept from the subsidiary. And who are the full sisters? Marginal, on the sides, right? But they share the same. 2/3 if there's two of them or more. If there's only one of them, they get 1/2. Again, everything has conditions, but just right now, just go with the numbers. 2/3 if there's two or more. If there's not two or more, they get 1/2. And then the last possibility, they share with their brothers. Who are their brothers? So the son and the daughters, and then full sisters and full brothers. So this is something we didn't talk about, we're going to come to later. Why do sometimes siblings share? And it has to do with, right, giving them, right, to groups together because they have the similar, right, rankings, as we're going to see. Daughter and son, they're both subsidiary heirs. But they're going to share, but then the son gets more. As for the full sisters and full brothers, when they come together, they all share it. Because again, where is the haqq on each side here? So think about it. The full sisters, they help you, they're there for you, they have a kind of like nearness to you. How about your full brother? Same. But your full brother won't take your place the way the son does. So they say, okay, those are together. So 2/3, if there's two, if there's less than two, there's going to be 1/2. And otherwise, they're going to share with their brothers. Now look at the granddaughters and paternal sisters. The same thing, except you add one more fraction. What is it? 1/6. And this one is very interesting. So granddaughters and paternal sisters, think about it. Who's stronger, daughter or granddaughter? Daughter. But the granddaughter is still an heir. She's going to be there. But we're going to see the daughter is stronger. So some cases, she's going to take her out. But right now, the granddaughter and paternal sisters, how come they have the same? When you look carefully, you're going to see that both of them, because they're either lower in ranks, that's the reason. So the daughter is higher than granddaughter, full sister is higher in strength than paternal sister. So what is it? The same thing. 2/3 if there's two, 1/2 if there's one, 1/6 is if there's only one. Or they share with their brothers. So it's extra, 1/6, that's the extra number. So take a look at those two lines. They're the same, right? Except you have to add the 1/6. And I'm going to come to that later. And the husband and the wife are very easy. Husband, he gets 1/2. If there's children, right, he's going to get 1/4. The wife starts from 1/4. If there's children, she gets 1/8. Why did she get half? Why? Because if the husband, if he's going to take, he's going to have to spend. So that's it. So what does the ayah say? Right? They get double. There it is. That's it. That's all the prescribed shares. So if you memorize it in this pattern, it becomes easy because later you can see who's going with who will take out who. Right now we're not there yet, but we just want to see a pattern. Because when you're looking at the heirs, the way some ulama presented, they present the information based on the numbers. Who's fraction, who's under it. Fraction, but this is more complicated. Why? They don't see any patterns. Another way they presented based on each heir, their share and the conditions. And it becomes confusing because for each one is like a long list. And some of us, our memory space is limited. So we need to make it as quick, as summarized as possible. So this is the easiest way, inshallah. So take a look at it, 1-2 minutes, inshallah. Try to memorize it. Because we have to leave this gathering with memorizing all the heirs and the numbers. Because if you could do that much, we're already, right, halfway there. If we don't do that, we're going to be stuck. So grandfather, father, 1/6 prescribed, or residual, or both. Mother, 1/3, 1/6. Paternal brother, sister, 1/3, there's two, 1/6, if only one. Grandmother, 1/6. Daughters and full sisters, granddaughters and paternal sisters, all the same, except that you have to add 1/6 for the granddaughter and paternal sisters, and husband and wife. So take a look at it, inshallah. Try to find a pattern. When you go home, you're going to review it anyways, but it's good to try to do it now while you're in the class. You can even see a pattern in terms of who's in group A and who's in group B. You can see that pattern, right? Who's in group A and who's in group B? Who's in the 1/2 group? Who's in 2/3 groups? And that's another wisdom. Why Allah put some people in 1/2 and some people in the 1/6 group or 2/3 group. Okay, so as we're looking at that, now the question we need to think about are the conditions. What will determine if someone gets full share or not? That's going to be in line and in slide number 16. And this is important because this is the part where we're going to find out from the top of our head who will get full or who not. So assume this. If an heir can get 1/3 and 1/6 like the mother, when does she get 1/3, when does she get 1/6? This is the question. So here on slide 16 I summarize all the possible conditions. Number 1, it says for an heir to receive their full share, there must be, number 1, an absence of any heir that cuts them off completely. So it goes without saying, you can't inherit if you get cut off. So first condition, the heir can't be cut off. If you cut off, you're not getting nothing. Condition 2, an absence of a fara', a subsidiary heir, most specifically a male heir. So this means if somebody is not cut off, they're supposed to get their full share unless we see that there's a subsidiary heir. And when we say subsidiary heirs, go back to our chart on number 12, slide 12. Who's the first one on top of the list? Son. So when the son is there, some people everyone gets less. Right, from the furu', from the ashab al-fard, the people who are prescribed, they get less, and some are taken out immediately. Well, I'm going to come to later that rule. So pay attention. Each one of these you have to clear before the person gets his full share. If they're not cleared, either they get partial share or no share. So there has to be absence of a subsidiary heir, more specifically the male heir, or an absence of an heir that shares their portion with them. So that means if there's an heir who they're supposed to get their share, there is a subsidiary heir, but then there's also a sibling. So let's take the example of daughter. How much can a daughter get by herself? By herself she gets 1/2. But what happens if her brother is there? They're going to go together and they're going to share together. Brother gets double and she gets 1. They double. So that's what I'm talking about. She's supposed to get 1/2, but when you told me her brother is there, they go together now. So it has to be then there's no brother there for her to get her half. Why? Because there has to be absent of subsidiary heir, specifically male, or someone who shares with her. Not everyone has people who share with them. We're going to come to later. But you see the point? If you went with the second rule, be like, there's only one of her 1/2. No, wait, her brother's there. That's why it's very important to understand why some people are ta'seeb and some are fard. Because there's going to be times where some people are going to come together, and some people are going to take some people out, and some people are going to get less, and some are going to get more. That's for later. And the fourth condition, for not all of them, but some of them, there has to be 2 or more of the same heir. Only applies to daughters, full sisters, granddaughters, paternal sisters, and maternal siblings. In other words, if there's 2 grandmothers, do they get more than 1/6? Nope, we say grandmothers in one group. Okay, how about there's 3 wives? Do they get more than 1/8? No, wives are considered one group. So who's considered 2 or more? If daughters. So if there's 1 daughter, how much she gets? 1/2. Okay, now let's say there's 2 of them. 2/3. And then her brother is there? They share, so she gets less. See? So that's what shows you all the possibilities but all you're going to ask is, if it's a sibling who has one who shares, are they there? No. Okay, how many? 2. Okay, so that's what you're going to use that checklist in your head. Boom, 2/3. But if you're going to say 2/3, no, there's only one of them. 1/2. Is there a brother? Right? If there is, go to last. So you kind of go down the scale. For the granddaughters, we're going to come to later. Okay, let's take a look at the full sisters. Full sisters, what do they get? If there's 2 of them, they get 2/3. If there's 1 of them, they get 1/2, or they share with their full brothers. Okay, so if you have a sister in a case, the questions you're going to ask yourself is what? What questions should you ask to figure it out? What kind of sister is it? Right? Start from there, right? It's a full term. If you just say sister, bismillah, and you think it's full, you didn't what are you doing there? You give people extra money? Right? So that's why it's important to ask all questions. What kind of sister? Full? Okay. How many? 2 or 1 or less? Okay, there's only 1. Okay, and is any brothers? No? Okay. 1/2. You see? That's simple. That's it. You're just going to go down the lane. And if it's one of those who doesn't matter, like wives. If there's wives, what are you going to ask? Or husband? Is there fara'? Any kids? And which side? All sides. His kids. They're both their kids. Her kid. That's it. Doesn't matter. It's a kid. Khalas. So that's it. You're going to be like 1/4. So the husband-wife is easiest in some ways, you could say. The trickiest ones you can see are the ones, if you go back to our slide, on number 15, it's the is the daughters, full sisters, granddaughters, paternal sisters. These four are the trickiest because they have the most, but at the same time they have a very flexible kind of inheritance. Maternal brothers and sisters, let's take them as example. How much can they get maximum? The maternal brothers and sisters, they can get 1/3 or 1/6. When did they get 1/3? If there's two of them. Okay, so let's say there are two of them. Now we're going to go to slide 16. Let's say there's two of them. So far, in my head, I'm thinking 1/3. So I'm going to go down the lane now. Number one, question, first point, absence of heir that cuts them off. We didn't study that yet, but who can possibly cut them off? Anybody who's considered subsidiary. So if there's a son, they're out. Daughter, they're out. So you see, why is it? Because they're weak, on the weak side. So we're going to learn later who cuts who off permanently. But one way you can figure out is just by going through this, you're going to figure out some people can get and some people can't. Some people can never be cut off, some can be reduced, and some can be cut off. So the reason that's the most trickiest one part, because if you don't know that, someone could pass away and all heirs are on the table. Your job is to see from all 23 possibilities, that's it, this much. You have to be able to do that. So sometimes it'll take time, but with these rules, it's a little bit quicker. So if the maternal siblings were two of them, but then we said there's a son, okay, she gets nothing, they get nothing. Another example, let's say there's a father. Father can get how much? Prescribed, he gets how much? 1/6, and if otherwise he can get what? The residual, or he can get both. Let's look at his example. Let's say there's a father, and in the first one, absence of any heir that cuts him off. Can anybody cut off the father? Right, no, it's can you cut off the father? What is this? Right? Do you think so? Can you? What do you think? Oh, no, I'm not right. Come on. Who do you think who can take from him? Can son take from him? But what can you do to him? You can't take from him totally. You can only reduce it, right? So because his father, so the son is stronger, as we're going to see. But in terms of his being 1/6, when the son is there, he gets the 1/6. And the wisdom is simple. Because he's the father, we can't just throw him out. What we're going to do, reduce. Right? 1/6. Okay. So let's say there's nobody can cut him off. Okay. Number two, absence of a fara', specifically a male heir. So let's say a father and son are together. Father won't be cut off. So what can he get then? Just the 1/6. Why? Because which one do you think is more, residual or prescribed? Which one do you think is more? Usually. Residual. Because the son is always getting residual. Just think about that. Residual means if you get 1/8 of $1 million and he gets the rest. See? So now think about it. Why is son number one in ta'asib? Because he's getting big money. It's unprescribed. Think about it that way. So when we say 1/6, 1/6 is less. And then if there's no son and daughters, he's going to get what? He's going to get the 1/6 and the residual, or 1/6 goes away, he just gets the residual. And in some cases, we'll see when there's only daughters, he'll get the both. And this is what we're going to come to. So that's why the father and grandfather are interesting, because the reason why they have so many options is because what was their job again? Think about the wisdom behind it. Do they take care of the household? They can, yes, they can. In the absence of a son, a father, grandfather can step up. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them 1/6, but in the case there's no son, he gets a ta'asib, and sometimes they get both, because he's going to be taking that job. So you're going to see, if you go down these conditions, it will help you determine. But we still have some things we didn't talk about that will come later, but that's why we're just looking at the basics of it. To summarize today's lesson on slide number 17, this is what we're going to leave with, inshallah. We have to review questions. Number one, mention all 25 heirs. We should be able to be doing that. In this case, 23. We're going to take out the 2. So who has it? Who has memorized some of it? If you don't know, just look at it quickly, right? Start with usul. Who are the usul? Father, mother, grandfathers, all of them, and then the grandmas. How many? It's paternal, maternal, and paternal grand. That's it. The paternal grandfather's mother. That's the one you got to remember. That last one, because that one is it's intuitive. It's not intuitive. That's it. That's all the usul. Then when it comes to the hawashi, the marginal. So there's going to be how many of them? 12. So where do we start with? Start with the sisters. Full sister, paternal sister, maternal sister, then brothers. Full brother son, paternal brother son, maternal brother by himself, then full uncle son, paternal half uncle, the half uncle son. Khalas. That's it. That's not hard. And remember, down you go, and they're all going to probably be cut off. That's another good news. They're going to be cut off most likely because they're weaker. And we're going to see that order. And the last two, we have then the furu', the very important ones, the subsidiary. We start with the son, and then his, the grandson, so son from him, and then the granddaughter, daughter from him, and then the daughter, khalas. And who's left? Husband, wife, khalas. That's it. That's not hard. If you memorize this way, it's easy. You see, before it was like all over the place. You just put them together in that order. Because the order we're putting it in is order of strength. So it's also the order you're going to try to look at cases. Right? So the most important thing we're going to see, because today we studied how furud, the first rule is always start with the prescribed shares. So there are 11, right? So who are the prescribed shares? That's another one. Who can take them out? Who can take from the 23 we have, take out the prescribed shares? Which ones are prescribed? Without the numbers, just the names. So all the usul, all the furu', who else is, right? And from the hawa, it's a marital too, okay? Anyone else? So it's 11. So go back to slide number 15. Take a look. Father, grandfather, mother, paternal brother, siblings, grandmother, daughter, full sister, granddaughter, paternal sister, husband, wife. These are the ones who are the ashab al-furud, the prescribed shares. So from the 23, you take out these 11. Why? Because what was the rule? When we do inheritance, who do we start with? These 11. When we sort them out, then what's left over, we give it to the closest heir. That's it. That's the whole subject. So the first thing you have to know, who are the 23? From they extract the 11. So that's why slide 15 is the main homework, because you get to memorize both the numbers and the inheritors at once. Because truth be told, like by that alone, you can do quite a bit of cases, right? Because you just know. And here's another thing. What happens if the prescribed share take everything? Khalas, done deal then. It's done. They take everything, take everything. So we have to understand that the prescribed shares, they're very important, right? And someone will say, but then prescribed shares, somebody's missing in this category, which is the son. So the son, he always going to come at the end. Right? Why? Because whatever is given to them, he's just going to take the residual. And then that's why he's so important, because by his presence alone, everyone's going to reduce their shares and he's going to get something. It can't be they're going to cut him out. They can't cut him out. So what's going to happen? They reduce everybody and he's going to take their share. Okay, so let's look at one more question here, two more questions here. Prescribed shares, we have 6 of them. What are they? We have group A and group B. Half, quarter, eighth. The next? 2/3, 1/3, 1/6. Khalas. That's it. That's it, right? That's not hard. Now, let's look at the following 3 and we'll stop with this. Determine the prescribed share for the following. So without looking, put the book away. Just use your mind. Because sometimes you just gotta pretend someone asks you a question. You gotta Bismillah. What do I got? Someone asks the husband, what can he possibly get? 1/4 or half or 1/4? Khalas. Okay, full sister? 2/3 if there's 2. If there's 1, 1/2. Or? Khalas. And then last one, granddaughters. So you're saying, but what's something missing? With the 1/6, yeah. So 2/3 if there's 2 of them. 1/2 is one of them. 1/6, and this is special. Why 1/6? When there's 2 sisters. We're going to come to that later. When there's 2 sisters, the granddaughter is technically supposed to be cut, but because the granddaughters are weaker than the sons, they get 1/6. I'm going to come to that. It's one of those special ones. Or they share with their brothers. That's it. So khalas, if you can memorize that, you can do cases. Because what happens, you just put it in and take people out, and put it in, and it's not very hard. The problem though is that most people, they don't memorize. And the ulama say that this knowledge, the difficulty is, it's easy to forget as it's to memorize. Right now you have it. Tomorrow if someone asks you, like, subhanAllah, I'll come back to you. Right? And that's a good news also. You're not supposed to do case in the street. That's not a, alhamdulillah, no one's going to be doing that. But if there's a test, yes. But if it's like someone gave you a paper and said, this is my heirs, you sit down, you take a look at all of it, you take your notes, you do it perfectly because real money here. But let's say someone asks you in the street, at least some of them are easy to do, right? Because you quickly can see. And that's why even some of them, the ulama say the easiness of it meant that Allah SWT wanted this knowledge to be preserved. Why did it become lost? Because it became neglected compared to other sciences. Not that it was difficult. Khalas, ikhwana, you don't have any questions, otherwise we're going to end with that. So for homework, we're going to memorize what we did today. All the heirs, the prescribed shares, and then some of the rules on 16. Next week, we're going to do ta'seeb. We're going to take a look at the residual shares, and we're going to take a look at the order. We already see a little bit today. We're going to see the ordering, then we're going to do some practice case, like at least 1 or 2, yes? When the mother gets 1/6, when there's an absence of fara'. In this case, there's no sons or daughters, or maternal, paternal sisters and brothers. So the mother is unique because she's not going to get anything when there's children, but also if she has her own children. So for example, let's say paternal siblings, or siblings coming out, all that are fara'. They're going to take her out to 1/6. So we're going to get to her. She's kind of unique in that it has to be no subsidiaries from her or from the deceased. That's one way to remember it. So that's how she gets to 1/6. Allah, yes. So which one? Yes. So for which one? Granddaughters or daughters? Yeah, so I put them, they're two separate groups, but I put them together because they have the same shares. So you're right, they're all different. So the way to remember it, that fathers and grandfathers, they're one jins, they're one group. But the father is close to grandfathers for the mother by herself. Maternal siblings and mother and grandfather. So later I'm going to put them in that group. This way, I put it this way so you can see them. But you're right, the daughters and full sisters are different because daughters are furu', they're subsidiary heirs. The full sisters are marginal. I only put them on the same line just because they're the same heirs. So that's why they memorize it. And you're going to see a pattern because when they come together, they also work together. Like for example, when there's daughters and full sisters, if there's two daughters, they're going to get their 2/3. What happens to the sisters? They'll take the residual. So the daughters and full sisters work together the same way granddaughters and sisters can work together. So I put them together for a purpose later. So you're going to see it, but it's good to know that now, yes. Yeah. So if the son is there, what we're going to start with, whenever the son is there, everyone's share is going to be reduced to the minimum they can get, and some will be cut off. The reason, because we said one of the conditions, there can't be a subsidiary heir, especially him. So then he's just going to get the residual. So when we do a case, you're going to see, you give everybody the lowest amount, then he gets everything, the remaining. And sometimes it could be, and then also the cases where there's still extra, but that's why he's important, he's going to be there. Yeah, but that's why he doesn't come in the wisdom we're going to say is because the ta'seeb, residual shares can be oftentimes larger than a prescribed share. So Allah subhanahu is wise, so He gave him an unprescribed share. Because and when his sister is there, he gets double what she gets. But by himself, he gets sometimes everything. So he takes everybody else out. And that's why if all the other ones who are below him are out as soon as he's there. And we're going to get to that, yes. So the maternal side, they're the weakest. So what's going to happen to the maternal siblings? Once you see them, if there's a daughter or there's a son, they're out. Right? That's one. If there's a father or a grandfather, they're out. So we're going to come to that. The rules of who gets cut off, we're going to see the people who are in the usul, the ancestral or foundational heirs, and people in the furu'. Usually they're not going to be cut off. Some of them never get cut off. It's the people on the margins, closer to near. So that's where we're going to, because they're so weak, even the daughter can cut them off. Usually the son cuts everybody on the marginal side, but even the daughter can cut them off. Why? Because they're maternal, they're weak. Yeah, so we're going to see that those rules will come later. What we did today a little bit gives us a little bit clue of that, because that's a little bit hard for people to memorize those rules. Some people just look at the charts and stuff, but if you memorize it, you can see the pattern. Right? But right now, we're just step by step. We don't go beyond what we did, because if we do, you're not going to come next week, right? You're going to say it's too much rules, right? That's one of the difficulties. You want to make it as simple as possible so you feel confident, right? I think it's easy, right? Khwani, inshallah. So next week we'll go from there. Barakallahu feekum. Subhanaka bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.